column that came out of the besieged Udami had hundreds of jeeps, ambulances, and trucks, as well as big guns of the artillery regiment. Many of the trucks were filled with wounded men, and some were stacked with the corpses of our killed in action. While the rifle companies secured the high ground, the column crept along the road, often grinding to a halt. The stop and start pace made it vulnerable to bands of Chinese who infiltrated the road. The walking wounded who could carry a weapon were turned to riflemen to protect the column. Every man who could walk, hobble, or limp was ordered off the trucks. The only riders were the serious cases, the gut wounds and blinded men, those with severe leg wounds, and men with frostbite so bad they would need amputation. Many of the wounded died in the trucks, some froze to death, and some were shot by infiltrators. The 14-mile ride was 3 days and nights of grim survival. Bob Fisher, who could hardly feel his wounded leg anymore and was worried that he would lose it, was ordered off the truck and given flank guard duty. A limping sergeant shoved a rifle at him and ordered him to fix bayonet, lock and load, and stand by to repel boarders. The walking wounded fought off the Chinese and did not let them get to the trucks. It was like that all the way to Hagaruri. The rifle companies of the 5th and 7th Marines stayed in the hills, guarding the MSR as the column pulled into Hagaruri. The garrison of the town came out to meet the bedraggled Marines who had run the 14-mile gauntlet of fire and ice. There were trucks and jeeps with their windshields shot away and their hoods and sides peppered with bullet holes and gashed by shrapnel. Wounded men were stuffed in layers in the backs of the trucks. Others were lashed across the hoods or tied to the fenders. There were many more trucks filled with corpses than had started the journey. As the walking wounded came within sight of the town, someone commanded them to fall into ranks. Maybe it was the limping sergeant who gave the command, the old salt who had set the defenses along Bob Fisher's stretch of the column. It could have been Father Griffin, or Sergeant Wingett, or Corporal Burris, or Corporal Johnson. The wounded men, and some who were unharmed but who staggered from exhaustion, formed up into 3 files, shouldered their weapons, and marched in ragged step. Slowly, the tread of their thick, rubber-soled shoe packs on the icy road became a steady, sure cadence. And the haggard and hurt Marines put their heads high. Captain Wilcox, who couldn't carry a weapon, was in the forward ranks. His arm was in a huge cast and splinted so that it was horizontal to the deck. His head and face were a cocoon of bandages. But, holding himself erect, he picked up the cadence and marched, standing straight, into Hagaruri. A battalion surgeon took time away from the hundreds of wounded men he tended in the Hagaruri aid station to witness the column's arrival. Those bastards. Those magnificent bastards were the words the doctor used to describe the worn and torn Marines from Udamni.
We are not all put on this earth to fight as soldiers for the military, but as Americans, whether or not I understand a lot of people have a fucked up perception of America, a lot of people have been taught that we're supposed to have a negative opinion towards this country. But fuck the past. Right now, we live in this fucking beautiful country that exists because men and women have made sacrifices that are impossible for most of us to even imagine accepting as our responsibility. While we are not all meant to be soldiers fighting in wars, we all have the ability to lead by example in our own life. And those motherfuckers did not fight. They did not die. They did not sacrifice their limbs, their minds, their families, their relationship with their children. They did not make those sacrifices fighting for our right to seek comfort and to be weak and easily manipulated. They fought for our right to be free. And we have a responsibility as spiritual beings to earn our freedom. Because if we choose not to, if we choose to be undisciplined, if we choose to take for granted the reality of this part of fucking land on this earth, this divine melting pot. Think about this country. Forget about the past. Look at how beautiful this shit is. And then look at what is happening to it. It's our responsibility. They didn't make those sacrifices so that we could let that shit go to waste. We have a responsibility to stand up and to take back what our ancestors have fought for. Like, if you're black and you think of America as this evil place, your ancestors are just as much a part of America as... And this is another thing, like, there's this idea that white people are evil because certain white people were racist that don't exist anymore. And there's still racism, obviously, but it's not like they want you to think it is. That shit's evolution. It's just gonna happen with time. And the way that we speed it up is not by being angry. It's by choosing to evolve internally ourselves and to lead by example. And you will serve your community in a way that you never would have by being angry and judgmental. We have a responsibility. We have to evolve. If we choose not to evolve, then this opportunity that has been given to us will be taken away. We have a responsibility. I love you.